Most people trying to improve their credit score focus on the wrong thing entirely, and it quietly costs them years of progress. Here's how credit score works at the most basic level. One number, somewhere between 300 and 850, decides whether you pay $180,000 or $240,000 for the exact same house. That $60,000 gap is purely the difference in interest paid over a 30-year mortgage between someone with a 620 score and someone with a 760. Same loan, same house, different number. And the frustrating part? Most people trying to raise their score pour their energy into the factor that matters least, while almost completely ignoring the one that matters most. Stick with this video and you'll know exactly which 5 factors control your score, how much each one actually weighs, and the specific moves that have taken people from the low 600s to above 700 in under a year. Let's get into it. Here's the part most people never stop to think about. What is a credit score actually measuring? Your credit score is not a measure of wealth. It is a measure of reliability. Specifically, it answers one question for any lender. If we give this person money, how likely are they to pay it back on time? That's it. A person earning $200,000 a year can have a terrible credit score, and someone earning $40,000 can have an excellent one. Income is not in the formula at all. The most widely used score is the FICO score, developed by the Fair Isaac Corporation. Over 90% of top lenders use it when making credit decisions. You also have a Vantage score, which is a competing model, but FICO is the one that matters most in real lending decisions. Your FICO score is calculated from information inside your credit report, a detailed file that tracks every credit account you've ever opened, every payment you've made or missed, and how much you currently owe. 3 major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, each maintain their own version of that file. Your score can vary slightly between them, which is normal. Now here's where it gets interesting. FICO breaks down that credit report into exactly 5 categories, and each one carries a specific weight. Getting those weights wrong is the core mistake most people make. Here's the part almost everyone gets backwards, and it explains why so many people feel like their score isn't moving, no matter what they do. The 5 FICO factors in order of importance are payment history at 35%, amounts owed at 30%, length of credit history at 15%, credit mix at 10%, and new credit at 10%. Look at that first number. Payment history, whether you pay on time or miss payments, makes up 35% of your entire score. It is by far the single largest factor. And yet the number 2 factor, amounts owed, sits right behind it at 30%. Together, those 2 factors control 65% of your score. Everything else is almost secondary. The mistake people make? They obsess over credit mix, meaning whether they have a variety of credit types like cards, a car loan, a student loan. That's only 10% of your score. Or they panic about applying for a new card, also just 10%. Meanwhile, they carry a high balance on their credit cards month after month, quietly dragging down that 30% factor without realizing it. Knowing this changes your entire strategy. You stop worrying about things that barely move the needle, and you focus hard on the 2 factors that control nearly 2/3 of your number. So let's take each of the top 2, because these are where real improvement lives. Payment history is the most important factor, and it's also the most punishing if you get it wrong. A single missed payment, even just 30 days late, can drop a good credit score by 50 to 100 points in one shot. And that mark stays on your credit report for 7 years. Not 7 months, 7 years. That one forgotten bill you paid 6 weeks late in 2021 is still sitting in your file right now. Here's what makes this especially frustrating. The higher your score, the harder it falls. A person with a 780 score misses one payment and can drop to around 680. A person with a 620 score misses one and might only drop to 590. The scoring model punishes those with more to lose. The payoff here is simple and mechanical. Pay every single bill on time, every single month without exception. Set up autopay for the minimum payment on every credit account, at the very least, so you never miss a due date by accident. If you have any late payments already on your report, the strategy is patience. You can't delete them unless they're actually wrong, but you can let them age. The older a late payment gets, the less it impacts your score, but payment history alone won't carry you. The second major factor is the one most people are silently losing points on right now, and fixing it is faster than almost anything else. Your amounts owed category is mostly measured by one thing: your credit utilization ratio. This is the single fastest number you can move, and most people don't even know it exists. Credit utilization is the percentage of your total available credit that you're currently using. If you have a credit card with a $5,000 limit and you're carrying a $2,500 balance, your utilization on that card is 50%. That is too high. The general rule that most credit experts point to is keep your utilization below 30%. So on that same $5,000 card, you want your balance to stay below $1,500. But here's the part that surprises people. The lower, the better. People with scores above 750 typically have utilization under 10%. Two important things to understand here. First, your utilization is calculated at the moment the credit card company reports your balance to the bureaus, usually around your statement closing date, not your payment due date. So even if you pay your balance in full every month, if your balance is high on that reporting date, you can still show high utilization. Paying down or paying early before the statement closes is what actually shows up. Second, you can lower your utilization without spending less. If you call your card issuer and request a credit limit increase, and they approve it, your utilization ratio drops immediately. Same balance, higher limit, better number. That one phone call can add points to your score within 30 to 60 days. And that brings us to the third factor, which can't be rushed but is still worth understanding so you stop accidentally working against yourself. These three remaining factors each carry less weight, but there are some specific traps inside them that silently cost people points every year. Length of credit history is 15% of your score, and it rewards age. The model looks at how long your oldest account has been open, how long your newest account has been open, and the average age of all your accounts. The longer those numbers, the better. This is why a counterintuitive rule exists. Don't close old credit cards just because you don't use them. Closing an old card shortens your average account age and can drop your score even if you never use that card. Leave it open. Charge something small on it once every few months to keep it active, and let time do the work. Credit mix is 10% of your score. The model likes to see that you can handle different types of credit responsibly: revolving credit like credit cards, and installment credit like a car loan or student loan. You don't need to go take out a loan just to improve your mix. But if you only have one type of credit, adding another type responsibly over time will help. New credit is also 10%. Every time you formally apply for a new credit card or loan, the lender does what's called a hard inquiry. They pull your credit report, and that inquiry temporarily dips your score by about 5 to 10 points. It's small and it fades within a year, but applying for 5 new cards in 2 months is a pattern that looks risky to the scoring model. Space out applications, and only apply for credit you actually need. Now here's where everything comes together. The practical roadmap from a score in the 600s to above 700. This is the section that turns information into a real plan. Let's say your score is sitting around 620 right now. Here's the sequence that moves the needle, in priority order. First, get your payments on autopay immediately. Every account, minimum payment covered, no exceptions. This stops the bleeding. Payment history is 35% of your score. You need this foundation locked in before anything else matters. Second, pull your free credit reports from annualcreditreport.com. That's the federally authorized site where you can get your reports from all 3 bureaus at no cost. Read through them carefully. Look for any accounts you don't recognize, any late payments that are actually errors, or any balances that seem wrong. Disputing a legitimate error and getting it removed can add significant points in 30 to 45 days. Third, attack your credit utilization. List every revolving credit card account you have, calculate the balance versus the limit, and focus on paying down the card with the highest utilization first. If you can get any card from above 50% down below 30%, you'll likely see a score improvement within 1 to 2 billing cycles. Request a credit limit increase on your oldest card if your income can support it. Fourth, stop applying for new credit while you're actively trying to rebuild. Every unnecessary hard inquiry is a small hit you don't need. Do these things consistently for 6 to 12 months, and a jump from 620 to 700 or above is genuinely achievable. Some people get there faster. The math works in your favor once you stop fighting against it. Knowing your score is one thing. Knowing what each range actually means in dollars is what makes you want to improve it. FICO's score ranges break down roughly like this. A score below 580 is considered poor. Most mainstream lenders will either deny you outright or charge extremely high interest rates. From 580 to 669 is fair. You can often get approved for things, but the rates are costly. From 670 to 739 is good. This is where most Americans land, and rates start to become reasonable. From 740 to 799 is very good, and above 800 is exceptional. The best rates and easiest approvals live in that 740 and above range. Here's what those ranges mean in practice. On a $30,000 car loan over 5 years, the difference in interest between a 620 score and a 720 score can be roughly $3,000 to $5,000 over the life of the loan. And on a $300,000 mortgage, the gap between a 620 and a 760 can translate to over $200 more per month. That's the $60,000 difference we talked about at the very start. That number at the beginning wasn't just a hook. It's the real cost of letting your score sit where it is. Here's everything in one place. How credit score works comes down to 5 factors. Payment history at 35%, never miss a payment. Credit utilization at 30%. Keep balances below 30% of your limit, and request limit increases strategically. Length of history. Credit mix at 10%, let it build naturally over time. New credit at 10%, space out applications, and only apply when you need to. The fastest path from 620 to 700 plus is set up autopay, check your reports for errors at annualcreditreport.com. Pay down your highest utilization cards, and then stop applying for new credit while you rebuild. 6 to 12 months of consistent behavior is often all it takes. If this helped, subscribe to Plain Money so you don't miss the next one. And leave a comment below telling us where your score is right now. No judgment here. Just a community trying to get better with money together. Now that you understand how your credit score works, the thing that quietly undoes all of this progress is carrying high-interest credit card debt while you're trying to build. Watch our video on how to actually pay off credit card debt next. That's the piece that completes this picture.